Good evening, welcome to Cardiff City TV.
Wilson, a little bit of space for Harry Wilson, strikes a goal! Oh, what a goal! Morrison, goal!
Good evening, or is it good afternoon? Whatever the case, welcome to Matchday Live, courtesy of Cardiff City TV. I'm your pre-show host, John Donovan, shortly to be joined by Ashley James. Well, it's not quite the promotion six-pointer playoff encounter we were hoping for or expecting a couple of weeks ago, but still plenty to play for both teams as the Bluebirds travel to Berkshire to take on the Royals of Reading. For the home side, well, they're still very much in the playoff chase and need to get the 3 points to hold off the challenge of Bournemouth and Barnsley. But for Mick McCarthy's Bluebirds, well, perhaps tonight marks in earnest the start of the Mick McCarthy evolution as he looks to plan for another concerted promotion push next season. But if you watched the manager's press conference on Cardiff City TV yesterday, a portion of which we'll have coming up shortly, you will know that the gaffer does not suffer fools gladly. So if there are any players on the proverbial beach already, if that's even allowed these days, well, they're in for a rude awakening as Mick McCarthy wants to be competitive in every game, and he certainly wants to win every game before the end of the season. Of course, there is still the mathematical possibility that the Bluebirds can make the playoffs, but rather more important now is the long-term view of getting everything shipshape ready to kick on next season. And in terms of that Bluebirds team that needs to be competitive tonight, it's a team that shows one change from the game last time out on the weekend, that disappointing last-minute draw to Blackburn. And really, it's the team that finished that game that starts tonight. Josh Murphy has come out of the team with Joe Rawls coming back in. So the lineup for the Bluebirds tonight, it's the back five, back six that we were expecting. Alex Smithies in goal, a back five then of Perry Ng at left wing back, Kieran Brown, Aidan Flint, Curtis Nelson, and Tom Sang, who of course signed that new contract at the weekend, and we're all delighted for Tom. We're also going to hear from him later as well. A midfield holding two of Will Vokes and Marlon Pack. Joe Rawls playing in a slightly more advanced midfield position, looking to link with the two players ahead of him. Harry Wilson playing in a slightly more advanced role and looking to get on the shoulder of Kiefer Moore, who of course leads the line. On the bench for the Bluebirds, goalkeeper Dylan Phillips, Geordie Ossie Tutu, and hopefully tonight maybe we might just see him make his return to Bluebirds colours, something we've been waiting for a long, long time. Also, Johnny Williams, Ruben Colwell, Junior Hoylett, Shea Ojo, Josh Murphy, Mark Harris, and Max Waters. That is the lineup, the matchday squad that will attempt to take 3 points for the Bluebirds tonight. For Reading, like we talked about, this is a crucial game for them as they look to cement a playoff place. They're chasing at the moment. They're chasing both Barnsley and Bournemouth, and they make two changes to the team that lost last time out against Watford, a 2-0 defeat on the weekend. They will line up with Cabral in goal. Omar Richards comes back in at left back in a 4-2-3-1 formation. Moore, Holmes and Yedom complete the back four. Josh Lauren and the ever busy and always impressive Andy Rinamota will be the midfield two. Ovie Ejaria, he's a player who can be inconsistent, the former Liverpool player, but he always seems to play well against Cardiff City. He will be on the left of the three, which has Michael Elise in the middle and Yako Mete on the right. And then Lucas João is back in tonight in replacement of George Puskas. You might remember George Puskas a long, long time ago, but only last season scored a debut hat-trick against the Bluebirds, the last time we were at the MATCHDAY Stadium in the league. But he's out tonight, and Lucas João will come back in for the Royals. So two teams with a lot to play for. Reading actually in terms of league position, Cardiff in terms of being competitive and planning for next season. So we hope for a good game, an early evening kickoff at the MATCHDAY Stadium. That's enough just from me at the moment. This is the moment where we hope technology serves us well and we switch to the screen behind us, and I'll be joined, I believe, by Ashley James in the MATCHDAY Stadium. There he is, fingers crossed. We've got you, Ash. Good to see you. Just want to start with the weekend again. You or I were on audio commentary on Saturday. Completely agree with Mick McCarthy's assessment. Blackburn deserve their point, but actually, in terms of the grand scheme of things, the Cardiff needing that win to keep any hope of playoff ambitions alive, being 2-1 up, the way they conceded goals at the end of both halves just seems so needless, so unnecessary, and so unlike what we've seen under Mick McCarthy.
Yeah, completely agree. You and I were as disillusioned, gutted as we have been for quite some time at the full-time whistle, and I think that came through our commentary and our summation. And it was, the defending was poor, but the game management was particularly poor. You know, getting caught in similar circumstances, short of numbers at the back, right at the end of two halves of football where you have the lead in a game that you have to win. And it was really disappointing for that regard. It was a lack of concentration as much as anything else, but what it permeates in is it results in some really poor defending, and Cardiff really gave away two really soft goals, which prior to the Sheffield Wednesday game, it was unlike them. I think that adding to that frustration was how well they played in the first half and really bounced back well from the capitulation against Sheffield Wednesday, because I thought they put a real shift in those first 45 minutes. They put a shift in the second half against Blackburn. They were just second best in those second 45 minutes, but Joe Rolls off the bench popped up with that goal, and it looked like it might carry Cardiff through the afternoon and continue their season going in terms of a playoff push, but it wasn't to be, and it was very disappointing that it came to an end on the weekend.
I'm conscious and also cautious as well not to dwell on negatives, Ash. I will ask the question that sort of everyone's talking about at the moment, but I'll ask it in a slightly different guise. Sean Morrison, his value is being emphasised at the moment with him being out of the team. That's no disrespect to Brown, Flint and Nelson, who have all done individually well at different points during the season. But you talk about Sean Morrison's defending, you talk about his leadership. What I'm interested in is what we were talking about with Jason Perry on the weekend. He's probably the best ball player of the defenders back there, and I think we've missed that, haven't we? Those centre-halves, those two wide ones particularly, need to step up into midfield. They need to players that link the play, and it hasn't been quite as good with Sean Morrison not in there.
Yeah, his absence has shut a lot of his detractors up, hasn't it? He's a player that has come under some criticism in his time at Cardiff, unfairly in my opinion, because I think you're seeing that now with his absence in the team. I think he's a tremendous defender. I think he's a tremendous leader, and he's so important to this Cardiff team. And you're right, not a great ball player. You'd be the first to admit that, but he's consistent with his usage of the ball out to the back, and this goes for his game as a whole. I think he's a player who fundamentally realises his own limitations, and he knows exactly how to accentuate his strengths as a player to try and overcompensate that. And that's why he's had such a great career at this level. There aren't many better than him at the championship level. And I think you're right. I think as much as we missed anything else, we have missed his ability to just distribute simply and effectively from out of the back.
Just keeping on that Blackburn game on the weekend, we'll turn to the Reading game tonight in a moment. But whilst you were travelling on the motorway today, you and I were having a conversation, and the subject turned, as it often does, to Harry Wilson. And you made the good point, because you're a stats guy, I'm more a gut feeling guy, and sometimes just because of his talent this year, I felt Harry Wilson hasn't always delivered, but you pointed out that his actual assist rate is almost second to none in the Championship, and I thought on the weekend his work rate against Blackburn, similarly to what it was against Swansea, was really impressive. He gave everything for the cause on the weekend.
No, I think, I don't know sure I'd describe myself as a stats guy. I think stats are very misleading in football. I think they can help you tell a story, but they don't tell the whole story in a team game like football. You and I are both big fans of American sports where sometimes stats can tell the whole story, and I don't think that particularly works well in football. You need context, and you need, as you said, gut feeling, and that people need to pass the eye test in football as much as they do against stats. And I think eye test wise, it has been an underwhelming season for a player of the quality of Harry Wilson. But then you look at the statistics and you see 12 assists for the season. Obviously, a lot of those will be from set pieces, but that's second only to Emi Buendia in the entirety of the division. We played another player on the weekend, played against another player in Harvey Wilson, who's neck and neck with him in those assists. And we're playing another player this evening in Michael Elise, who's just behind them. So, he's in good company, and he has at times really turned it on this season, but it's been inconsistent. But so is the team selection a lot of the time. He's been in and out of the team. He's been surrounded with a partner in that attacking midfield role that's chopped and changed every week as well. The pairing behind him in midfield has chopped and changed. And I think you're right to highlight the hard work that he's put in. You think of the Swansea game, and the large reason that we pulled through the result in that game was obviously the defending at the back five putting their bodies on the line. But Harry Wilson put in a huge shift that afternoon and practically played as a third central midfielder. And I think if you look at the last game against Blackburn, you take the Sheffield Wednesday game out of it, but you look at the game before that, which was frustrating as well in its own way, but largely the things that worked well about Cardiff on that afternoon, and that was that high press from the number 10 position. And as we always say, and I speak about it with Jason Perry a lot of the time, when Cardiff are able to get our high press working well, they look a completely different team. And, the player that does that better than anyone in the Cardiff ranks in Junior Hoylett isn't in the reckoning at the moment. And I think Harry Wilson has stepped in and performed that role admirably.
Ash, thank you for the moment. Put some money in the dial-up router, because you're a bit juddery at certain times.
I'm lagging,
but we'll be back to you shortly. Maybe you can open a window or something. But thanks for the moment, Ash. Well, before we go back to Ash and talk about tonight's game and preview what we have in store against Reading at the Madejski, as I alluded to earlier, Mick McCarthy spoke to the press yesterday. It was a really enthralling 15-minute interview, and we've got a section of it for you now.
Oh, for sure, they're a good side. I mean, I think they've just dropped out of the top six, haven't they? They should be really fired up, trying to beat us to get back in that top six. They're going to need results, because Bournemouth, Barnsley, and the ones around them have continued picking up points. So it's a huge game for them. But equally, it is every game's a big game. But for them especially, to try and get back in that top six. I mean, to be honest, when the league started at the time of it, I'd pretty much moved on to Cyprus. I didn't take that much notice of what they were doing, to be quite honest. But having come back and seeing them, they have got good players, and they've got a good squad. I thought they were going to do better at one point, and having dropped out of the top six, they'll want to get back. I'm sure they'll be hurting. We'll have to be fully at it. That's for sure. To go to there and get a win. Listen, it's funny then on the back of a 1 point from 9, then it doesn't feel as good as it was doing, of course. But if you consider, I don't know what we took 1 point. Somebody said to message to me that you'd have 1.8 points per game, which, if you get 2 points per game throughout the season, then you're going to get promoted. Some of it's been good. Was it a bounce? New manager coming in? Can we compete with it? I mean, it was a big bounce. We went for 13 games, and then as these last three, we just dropped off a little bit. For what reason? I don't know. I mean, I said the Sheffield Wednesday game. That was just a perfect storm. That for them, that was just ridiculous. Blackburn, we shouldn't be giving that away in the 90th minute. It was. Is it a success? I can't say that. No, it's been educational, that's for sure, in terms of the league again, always, and the players that we've got, and what we can do, and maybe looking forward. Season's never over, is it? I don't understand that. I think when you go out for training, if that was the case, it only mattered if you were playing for points and playing for league positions, then players wouldn't even compete in training. And of course, that's not the case. You're always playing for something. You're playing for your pride, you're playing for the club, you're playing for the jersey, you're playing for the fans, you're playing for yourself, you're playing for your livelihoods. If that ain't enough to motivate you, then I'm afraid there's something wrong.
Mick McCarthy there, extremely emphatic that Cardiff City still have a lot to play for in the last 5 games of the season, starting tonight against Reading at the MATCHDAY Stadium. I'm back with Ashley James for our pre-game show. And Ash, what are you expecting from these last 5 games? I said it might be the start in earnest of the Mick McCarthy evolution. You were speaking to me earlier saying, well, it might be a case of getting through the next 2 games, Reading and Brentford. Don't lose sort of too much face. Don't get turned over easily, and then maybe experiment in the last 3 games. It could go a number of different ways. What are you expecting from these last 5 games of the season?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's 2 really difficult games of football coming up in the next 4 days, isn't there? This evening against Reading, and then against Brentford. And I think you may be doing the division a disservice as well with these 2 teams, chasing automatic and playoff places themselves. I think you might be doing the division a bit of disservice if you were to chop and change and experiment a bit too much in these games. So I think we will try and play the strongest team possible, or what Mick McCarthy considers the strongest team possible in these next 2 games, and I think then it allows you those 3 games at the end of the season against the strugglers in Wycombe, Birmingham and Rotherham, albeit teams fighting for their lives for the championship status, to maybe experiment a little bit more and start planning ahead. I think we're all guilty of it, and we know as fans that we feel like the playoffs have slipped away from us, that we've all turned our attention to next season, and we've all started planning. We're drawing up our depth chart, we're drawing up transfer lists in our mind, and we forget that the next 5 games have to be played on the pitch and not on paper, as we're trying to do at the moment. So I think it is a difficult balancing act. As I think certainly Mick McCarthy will want to see what he's got in terms of players in different positions, maybe a different formation, and certainly combinations looking ahead at next season. So it will be interesting. What's key is you've missed a huge opportunity, I think, with these 3 games at the end of the season. I mean, if you were in the playoff hunt, you couldn't have drawn up 3 better games. And I know that comes from a slightly bizarre place, because we've just lost 5-0 to the team that were bottom of the table at that point. But 3 teams in the bottom 4 to finish the season when you're chasing a playoff spot, you couldn't have asked for a kind of fixture list. So, you've really blown that opportunity. So really try and grasp that opportunity and grasp it as a positive in another way. And I think that other way is for a bit of experimentation.
2 more quick questions for you before I let you go and get in position. I think we've got a couple of minutes. First of all credit to you and your commentary against Sheffield Wednesday. When I was listening to you, you picked up or you had a fear that maybe there wasn't enough pace in the Cardiff City team that night and perhaps not enough width. Any inklings it might be the same this evening?
Well, it's ironic, isn't it? Because I think that's how we all started this season as Cardiff City fans, fearing that there wasn't enough pace in the team. And in many regards, we're ending the season where we started it, which is with Joe Rolls playing as a number 10. And not a great deal of us felt comfortable with that at the start of the season, because I think I, like many, I'm a big admirer of Joe Rolls, and I want him in the middle of the field for Cardiff. But he did a job on the weekend as that number 10, and it does allow Harry Wilson to push that little bit further forward and offer support for Kiefer Moore. But Moore's a better player. We saw that in the first half against Blackburn. He's a better striker when he's got somebody making runs beyond him. Now that's a lot of onus on Harry Wilson to do that this evening. It's going to be difficult, but certainly somebody needs to go and make those runs beyond Kiefer Moore to try and stretch this Reading backline. And it's a Reading backline that's had chopping and changing. They're missing 2 key players, certainly Michael Morrison, who looks like he's going to miss the remainder of the regular season. That is a big loss indeed.
And we overtalk, and I'm getting the sign that we're out of time. But just quickly on Reading, a surprise package this season. They've been consistent all year, and I mentioned in my my little blurb earlier, Ovie Ejaria, maybe not the most consistent player throughout the whole season, but always seems to play well against Cardiff City.
Yeah, he's an incredibly skillful player. I think they have a pretty daunting 3 behind a striker this evening in MATCHDAY, Elise and Ejaria, and I think that's a large reason of why they're doing as well as they are. And they've got John Swift back on the bench this evening, who, when he's playing well, is as good as anyone as a number 10 in this division. I think Mick McCarthy probably hit the nail on the head in his pre-match press conference when he said, look, they probably did better than anyone was expecting to start the season. They had a pretty small squad. There was a lot of turnover. And now they're probably doing a little bit worse than people expected because they've fallen away a little bit. But I think, again, to go back to the fact that they've got a pretty shallow squad, and I think injuries have probably caught up with them a little bit. But on their day, they can be devastating. Let's hope this evening isn't one of those days.
Certainly, I second that. Ash, thanks for the moment. We'll be back with you and Mark shortly, but I'll let you get back in position and enjoy the game tonight. My thanks to Ashley there. Well, it seems all doom and gloom at Cardiff City with a couple of defeats, but a lot has been positive under Mick McCarthy. And something that's been positive all season is the development of young players at the Bluebirds. And one man who's been very impressive and just signed a new contract is Tom Sang. And again, Cardiff City TV spoke to him earlier this week.
Tom, a very well-deserved contract extension. You must be over the moon, and on behalf of us all, thoroughly deserved.
Yeah, I'm absolutely buzzing, especially with a big club like this. I mean, since the gaffer's come in, it's just, obviously I couldn't get it at the start, but just kept my head down and kept working, and I'm absolutely buzzing that I'm here for the next 2 years, and hopefully even more.
So here, at least until the summer of 2023, you've shown really just what could be achieved with hard work, and you've taken your chance.
Yeah, exactly. It's starting training every single day. You've got to want it. I want to get better every single day. So I'm just absolutely buzzing that I've got a future here to build on that and just get better and better.
What did you feel like when you knew that chance to start at Huddersfield, wasn't it, was going to come for you? What were you feeling? What were the emotions at that time?
Well, there's obviously a lot of nerves. It's a big stage to step into, especially live on Sky on the night. But I feel like we were staying over at the hotel. I had to mentally prepare and just relax and just go and enjoy it. So I feel like that's what I did. It's
been quite the year for you, isn't it? Time away on loan, and you maybe didn't think this opportunity was going to come as quick as it has.
Exactly, because game time wasn't too regular on loan either, and I was playing all sorts of different positions there. So it's like not really a clear path. But then as soon as I come back, I knew exactly what my job was. I knew where I was going to be playing when the chance came. So when it did come, I've just taken it.
What's the gaffer said to you?
Just says it's thoroughly deserves, but obviously I want to thank him for the opportunity and trusting me to go and do the job. So
you look like you enjoy playing for him.
Yeah, I really do. Yeah, because I mean, especially with the lads as well, they're all behind you. If you make a mistake, they're all behind you again, and it's just a really good environment to be in. So
you thoroughly deserve this, Tom. Well done.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Top 5 in association with the Big Yellow Self-Storage Company.
Back on his own line. Hoylett into Mendes, Lan into the box. Hoylett comes again across goal. McShane again. Bennett again. Goals! Lifeline for Cardiff. With 8 minutes to go, it's deserved. Reading 2, Cardiff 1.
And finally, the pressure in the wide area pays off.
Alive. Tomlin turns in the area, clips that in there, Bander's in there, hits the bar, Tomlin hits the bar again! The referee has given the goal! Lee Tomlin has made it 2-2! And the scenes here at the Medeski, incredible behind the goal!
Tries the shot, speeding away, chance here. Again the goalkeeper saves it from Miller. Cleared away by the Reading defence. That was a great effort by Conway. Definitely so. Over the top. What a goal! What an absolute world-class goal from Peter Whittingham from range. Looked like he's done it justice.
80 years might sound like a pretty long time, but if you're an idea, a dream, a belief, then 80 years is just the beginning.
Well, that about does it for the pre-game show on YouTube. To be honest, I'm not sure where you can watch this tonight, if anything, but you can get audio commentary, of course. Switch to the Cardiff website, Cardiff City website for that, and in certain countries where there aren't restrictions, you will be able to see pictures. We hope you've enjoyed the show, but for audio commentary, we'll pass you over now to the MATCHDAY Stadium to Mark Denham and Ashley James. Enjoy the game and enjoy your weekend.
Good evening, welcome to Cardiff City TV.
Wilson, a little bit of space for Harry Wilson, strikes a goal, oh, what a goal, Morrison, goal!
Good evening, welcome to the MATCHDAY Stadium. Cardiff City against Reading, a fixture over the years that has brought everything really. Some fantastic goals, some key battles, some heartaches and some revelry in defeating one of the clubs that obviously where we are geographically in the world feel like a close rival. If you take beyond Bristol City and Swansea, Reading and Swindon over the years have been those sort of clubs that we have targeted. And what could happen today is that Cardiff City could completely derail Reading's season that has been spiralling. They've done what they have done in recent years, really. Reading have looked promising and then form has gone against them. They're out of the playoff picture at the moment, trying to get back into it. Do you think they will, Ash?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? I think Mick McCarthy hit the nail on the head in his pre-match press conference when he said that I think they caught everyone by surprise to the start of the season with how well they played. They've got a lot of quality players, but they came into the season with a very, very shallow squad, and their depth is largely made up of a lot of untested youngsters from this really good academy that they run here. And I think that's caught up with them a little bit now as the season has worn on. They definitely have the quality to put themselves back in amongst it. I don't think, actually, going forward, there's a great deal of difference quality-wise between them and Bournemouth. I think they've both got goals in the team, they've both got creativity. What might come back to bite them is the lack of Michael Morrison and that leadership at the back, and it doesn't look like he'll see the pitch again before the playoffs, which would be a massive blow to them, because you need that glue to hold everything else together, don't you?
We've both got a Morrison issue. No Sean Morrison still in the side for City, struggling with a calf injury that popped in the heroic derby win against Swansea City back in March. This is the Reading team. Those of you watching can see on your picture Lucas João back in the side this evening in place of George Puskas. That's a key attacking change for the Royals.
It is. He's having a momentous season up top, João. 22 goals now, I think, for the campaign, and a change at left back as well, where Omar Richards comes back in. They've been playing with Lewis Gibson, the Everton loanee there, left-footed, but naturally a centre-half, so Richards will come in and add some thrust there. Of course, counting down the games now in his Reading career, because he's off to Bayern Munich in the summer, so it just shows the kind of quality that he does possess. But yeah, you're right to point Lucas João out as the danger man.
As the City lineup, one change is that, well, in fact, it's the side that ended the game at Blackburn. Joe Rolls back into the 11 in place of Josh Murphy, and that's pretty much how City will shape up. Sang and G in the wing-back positions, and Rolls in the more advanced midfield role, number 10 in modern parlance.
You know
Ros is going to give you, he's gonna go win secondary ball in that area, and he's gonna put pressure and press high up the pitch, and it will allow Harry Wilson to go and play a lot closer to Kiefer Moore. Unfortunately, when you look at that team, it's lacking pace, and what you need is somebody to go beyond Kiefer Moore, and whether Wilson's got the legs to do that, I don't know.